Imagine spending 3 or 4 years preparing for a single day. You wake up early, attend coaching classes, skip festivals, and your family spends lakhs of rupees on fees and rent, all for one competitive examination. Multiply that effort across millions of hopeful candidates sitting in halls just like this one, ready to finally put their hard work to the test. But then, hours before the doors even open, a message pings on a smartphone. The confidential question paper is already out, being sold to a select few. Suddenly, the rules of the competition change. Your years of study are no longer competing against another student's hard work. You are competing against money, corruption, and organized criminal networks. Paper leaks operate as a systemic crime. They drain taxpayer funds, destabilize thousands of families, and compromise the future quality of the nation's medical, engineering, and administrative professionals. To understand how these heists happen, we have to track the life cycle of a question paper. There are 6 specific stages where confidential material can be compromised. The vulnerability starts early. During the drafting or printing phase, an employee might secretly copy the paper, remove defective sheets, or use a hidden camera inside a secure printing press. Then comes transit and storage. Packets moving to banks or examination venues can be intercepted, photographed, and resealed. Even at the center itself, local staff might open sealed packets before the authorized time. For computer-based tests, the risk shifts to digital infrastructure. Criminals attempt to hack servers, deploy malicious software, or use remote access tools to take over an examination computer from the outside. None of this happens in a vacuum. It requires a sophisticated supply chain of middlemen, compromised officials, and organized solver gangs who collect cash in exchange for genuine, or sometimes entirely fake, materials. When these networks succeed, the fallout is massive. We saw this play out on a national scale during the NEET UG 2024 controversy, where evidence pointed to breaches at specific identified locations. For millions of youths taking these exams, the news brings immediate despair, anxiety, and deep anger. The realization that honest effort has been bypassed drives students into the streets, demanding accountability. This forces the highest courts into a difficult position. The Supreme Court had to determine whether a localized leak was widespread enough to taint the entire examination process. Authorities face an almost impossible choice. Canceling the exam protects the fairness of the selection process, but it also forces millions of innocent, hardworking candidates to endure the massive financial and psychological toll of starting all over again. To combat this organized fraud, the Indian Parliament enacted the Public Examinations Prevention of Unfair Means Act in 2024. The law specifically targets the economics of cheating. Service providers and criminal networks involved in organized examination crime now face up to 10 years in prison and financial penalties extending to 1 crore rupees. The legislation places a protective shield over the country's most prominent recruitment bodies, including examinations conducted by the Union Public Service Commission. It also governs massive public employment tests run by authorities like the Staff Selection Commission, Railway Recruitment Boards, and the National Testing Agency. The objective is clear. Leaking an exam paper is no longer treated as a minor administrative irregularity. It is classified as a non-bailable, cognizable offense designed to dismantle and bankrupt solver gangs. But the threat of prison alone will not solve the problem. Prevention requires a complete overhaul of the physical and digital infrastructure holding these exams together. Authorities must heavily restrict human access. This means utilizing encrypted question sets that are only decrypted moments before the test under controlled conditions, maintaining strict digital audit trails, and randomizing questions across candidates. When breaches do occur, investigators are relying heavily on digital forensics. By analyzing server logs, tracing WhatsApp communications, and UPI transactions, they can trace the money back to the gangs and to the specific candidates who paid them. For candidates, the rules are strict. Never transfer money for a guaranteed rank, and never forward an unverified question paper. Doing so can expose you to severe legal consequences. If you are approached, preserve the screenshots and report them to the police immediately. Securing the examination system upholds the primary promise of meritocracy. It ensures that the future of India's youth remains determined by their effort, rather than the price they can pay for a stolen paper.